December 17th, 2015. The day I told the world my truth. The day I said, my name is Ethan and I'm transgender. And now I'm here, a year later, rocking a beard. In full disclosure, I really debated making this video. I mulled over it for months. What do I say? How do I say it? I'm just living my life. And then I thought, if I didn't say something, it would be a missed opportunity. We, as a transgender community, are facing the struggles the lesbian and gay community faced 30 years ago. To those that are in a position to, we must speak up. We must be visible. We must share positive examples and experiences to look to for hope. My intentions are to educate and be that hope to someone that may be struggling. Let me say, like I said in my first video, no two trans stories are the same. So what I'm going to tell you is not going to be the same experience as another trans person, but because of my experience and the support behind me, I want to do my best to make it an easier path for the next generation of trans folks. So with that said, I knew nothing would be the same once I came out. I wasn't sure what that meant. I had done enough research to plan for a lot of outcomes, hoped for everything, but expected nothing. My family has been incredibly accepting. Of course, they all knew before I came out publicly, but I'll share with you just a few stories that show how accepting they've been. My cousin, a month after I came out to him, asked me to be one of the 3 groomsmen at his wedding. After spending 20-something years feeling like having to get dressed up was going out in drag, it was really affirming when I felt comfortable and happy wearing that suit. I came out to my one set of grandparents the weekend before my coming out video was posted. I thought they would take it the hardest, and I wanted to have as much preparation time to tell them. By the end of the conversation, my grandfather sat at the head of the table and invited me to sit across from him, saying, "The men sit at the heads of the table." And my little nephew, he's 7. I see him a couple times a year. Pre-transition, he would always ask me, "Are you a boy or a girl?" even though at the time I was presenting female. Since I've transitioned, he hasn't asked that question once and hasn't had a name or pronoun slip up either. I'm just Ethan, his uncle. It's hard for me to fathom families disowning their children, siblings, cousins, or parents because they come out as transgender or gay. But it happens all too often, and these families usually base it off some religion falsity. The last time I checked, the greatest commandment of all was to love God and to love others as you love yourself. Disowning someone isn't loving them, and therefore, these people aren't abiding by the greatest commandment of the faith they claim. But I digress. My friends have been wonderful. They accepted me as unique as I was before, and they accept me as I am today. I'd venture to say my friendships are more meaningful and genuine than they've ever been because I can just be myself. Since beginning this journey, I have connected with a wonderful network of guys here in town and all throughout the world on the same path. I've traveled from coast to coast to meet some of them in person. They are more than my friends. These guys are my brothers. For those trans folk out there who aren't sure about this journey and want to connect with some people, I highly recommend Instagram. That's where I found a great network of guys, both new to transitioning and the seasoned ones. Check out the hashtag FTM, or for trans women, hashtag MTF. We're here. You just gotta find us. Before coming out at my job, I did a lot of planning. I know this isn't the course of action for a lot of people, but since I've had people ask how I did it, I'll share my basic rundown. For starters, I work with a Fortune 500 company who prides itself on taking care of its people. I came out very early on to my immediate team and a couple close coworkers. I knew they'd be the first to notice the physical changes, so it was worth addressing. I then met with a diversity and inclusion team who got me in touch with HR. We all met with my senior leadership who helped formulate what day this would happen. The VP of my department agreed to send an email out to my coworkers that included a 1-page letter from me explaining what they needed to know. Since that email went out, my experience has been incredible. I was asked to speak at an LGBTQIA+ event in June, where attendance was completely voluntary. The conference hall had every seat taken, with people standing in the back and sitting on the stairs to the side, not to mention some vice presidents and the CEO front and center. I've heard many stories where trans people try to transition at their job and face struggle, like people not respecting their name and pronouns and criticizing what restroom they use. The common fix to this is to quit and to start a new job where they are stealth as the correct gender. Even though the issue of harassment may be gone because no one knows their past, there is still a struggle when applying for jobs if their legal name hasn't been changed or if their gender marker hasn't been updated. Both are long processes that take time, money, and resources that not everyone has. I think there are a lot of ways that companies can improve the transition process. But the tough part is that there's no one right or wrong way to do it. And the way I came out at work may not be the same way someone else wants to do it. I think what's most important is that we have these dialogues and potential steps in place for those that want to transition at a company but don't know how to. Of course, everything should be flexible and accommodating, but it's better to have something to build off of than to start completely from scratch. The church I attend has always been LGBT inclusive. However, they recently formed a transgender council. When we were introduced, we received a standing ovation from the congregation. As believers in a higher power, this is what we are called to do, to love people as they are. I've been asked how I reconcile my faith in being transgender. And to be honest, it's a no-brainer for me. In order to love others, I had to accept and love myself first. I walked away from religion for quite some time because I couldn't understand why God would make me this way. But once I realized that this was the point all along, that this was who I was meant to be, well, needless to say, I've reconciled my faith. Since deciding to live authentically and realizing that my experiences of acceptance haven't been the norm, I knew I could make a difference. Being open and out about who I am could change hearts and minds of people. So that's what I'm doing and will continue to do. I have a favor to ask though. If we're friends, or you introduce me or talk about me to someone, the first or second or third thing they know about me doesn't need to be that I'm transgender. There's a lot that gets factored into the decision of coming out, safety being the main priority. Trans people are murdered every year just because they are trans. We speak their names every year on Transgender Day of Remembrance, so safety has to be number one. I know you may think it's cool that you know someone who's trans, or that you may be proud of me and my journey, but because it's personal, please let me make that call. Sometimes, most times, I just want to be Ethan, just Ethan, not Ethan the trans guy. So with all of that said, I'm sure you're probably wondering about dating. Everyone wants to know about dating. I'll be honest, I think I'm awkward. If someone is looking at me, my first thought is, something's on my face. What's on my face? Where's a mirror so I can get it? I turn red if someone compliments me. You know, it's one thing to transition and start to like what you're seeing looking back at you in the mirror. It's a whole different ballgame when someone else likes what they're seeing too. So not to disappoint y'all, but I'd rather keep the dating details to myself. I will say that I've met some wonderful men since my journey started. They've shown me, and I think they'll tell you that I've shown them, that sexuality can go beyond body parts, that there is no one right or wrong way to be gay, and that life is beautiful and sexy and dirty and not everyone can fit into a box. Overall, this last year has shown me that the gender, sexuality, and identity rebel community is vast, compassionate, and connected, but there is still work to be done. To everyone, and especially my lesbian, gay, and bisexual family, please do your research on transgender people. Aside from the obvious Google search, I recommend transstudent.org as a good starting place. Learn what things to say or not say so you can be a better advocate. Learn that transgender people don't have to fall in the binary of male or female to have valid identities. Learn the struggles trans people face because it's not just the bathroom issue. Going through airport security where our bodies are put on display because they don't fit the scanner's binary, or finding a doctor that will treat us, or always wondering, would this person treat me differently if they knew? For the LGBers, cisgender heterosexual people are going to come to you with questions about trans people, and you are our closest cousins. You need to know the information, the correct information, if we're going to make any progress as a community. I've been told I need to write a book filled with stories from my journey. I have a lot of them. So I've been jotting memories down for when the time comes. I'm not sure where this next year will take me. This first year has been a whirlwind. I've set up some goals for myself: learn how to lead a dance partner, get better at tying ties, practice public speaking since that seems to be coming up more and more, and one day, maybe one day, do a TED Talk. I'll leave you with this. The only way to close the gap and erase the fear of the unknown is to build a bridge and shine a light.